Hello everyone, and now, let us begin the real journey. As we are leaving the city of PHŽNG behind us, and heading into the raw and untamed beauty of the northern PHŽNG region, a place where the PHŽNG Loop truly comes alive, vibrant with steep passes, far-off remote villages, and stunning landscapes that is shifting with every kilometer. This will be a real ride without filters or shortcuts, just the rough and untamed road, the exhilarating journey, and the surprises awaiting us around each bend. So get ready for a long and eventful Sunday trip. A passage packed with insights, a voyage that will lead us deep into the unknown and lesser-seen corners of the wild PHŽNG Loop, a route that is often talked about, but rarely shown in its true original raw and beautiful truth. And as we just passing the kilometer marker 0 here, let us take a look at our Day 1 route itinerary, which is leading from here into the QL4C highway, a national route that will take us into the northern part of the loop. It will be a winding journey through rugged terrain and into the heart of the province where the real PHŽNG Loop begins. Our first major ascent takes us to the Quản Bạ Heaven Gate Pass, which is a dramatic viewpoint that marks the entrance into the Geopark of the Dong Van Karst Plateau, a UNESCO-recognized region which is known for its limestone formations and ethnic diversity. The road shall climb steadily, offering beautiful and panoramic views if the weather is good, and sharp switchbacks that will not only test us, but also our trusted machines. Once we crested the pass, we shall descend into the town of THÄNG Son, a small settlement which is the capital of the Quản Bạ district and nestled in the valley below. It will be a brief but welcome pause before we continue into the commune of Son Thai, which is also part of the Quản Bạ district, and a cultural mosaic of ethnic communities, dramatic landscapes, and emerging tourism. However, I have been told that once we passed Son Thai, the landscape will start to shift into a less dramatic scenery, a landscape which is more intimate and filled with terraced fields and countless quiet villages. Then, the route will climb once again, this time toward the Na Ki commune, which is nestled in the Yên Minh district, and home to the Yên Minh Pine Forests, or locally known as the Chuan Cam Doi Thong. This stretch shall be cooler, more shaded, and more serene. I learned that it is often compared to the central highlands of Vietnam, because of its pine-covered hills and very nice and crisp air. From there, we shall descend once more. But now into the Yên Minh Valley, leading us down into the town of Yên Minh, which will be our natural stopping point for the night, as it is surrounded by karst ridges and well known for its quiet charm and friendly local hospitality. Now as we can see, here we are overtaken by an easy rider tour group, and this is another way of riding the loop, as not everyone who comes to PHŽNG is ready to ride solo. It is mainly because many tourists do not have the correct international driver license, which must be accompanied by your local license and include the category of the motorbike you are riding. Let us clarify this in a bit more details of what is needed to ride legally on the PHŽNG Loop, and what we need to know before we start. There is one thing every traveler needs to get right, and that is our license. Riding the PHŽNG Loop is not just about our skill, no, it is also about legality, and trust me, Vietnam has very strict rules when it comes to foreign motorbike riders. To ride legally here, we need two things: a valid motorcycle license from our home country, and an international driving permit, or in short called the IDP, that was issued under the 1968 Vienna Convention. Now be aware that not all the IDPs are created equal, and if yours is based on the 1949 Geneva Convention, it will not be accepted here in Vietnam, even if you are legally licensed back in your home country. That means travelers from countries like the United States, Canada, Australia, Japan, and India cannot legally ride with their standard IDPs here in Vietnam. On the other hand, riders from most European Union countries, such as South Korea and Thailand, are covered, and that is because their permits follow the 1968 rules. You might ask, why does this matter? Well, it is because the police checkpoints here are very common along this loop. And if you are caught riding without the proper documents, you could face fines of up to 5 million Vietnamese dongs, as well as have your motorbike impounded, and lose your travel insurance coverage in case of an accident. So, if you are unsure, check before you ride. Or better yet, consider joining an easy rider tour, where a licensed local guide handles the driving, and you get to enjoy the journey on the pillion seat without the legal risk. Then there are other factors such as the steep terrains, very unpredictable roads, and weather pattern that can shift without any previous warnings. And this is exactly where Easy Rider Tours come in, as a safe and guided way to experience the loop without having to drive it yourself. These tours pair travelers with experienced local guides who handle the motorbike while you ride as a pillion. It is not just about comfort, but also about the connection. Most guides are from ethnic minority communities and know their region inside out. They will take you through more dramatic passes, more remote villages, and many hidden viewpoints we likely would miss on our own. The typical route covers all the highlights: the Quan Bạ Pass and the Heaven's Gate, the Yên Minh Pine Forests, the Dong Van Karst Plateau, and the legendary PHৰীষ্টNG Pass. Along the way, you will stay in homestays which are booked ahead, share delicious meals with local families, and learn about the amazing stories that lingers behind the landscapes and this unique region. It is a ride for all of those who want to see more, worry much less, and dive even deeper into the culture and the geography of northern Vietnam. And therefore, whether you are short on riding experience or just want to focus on the journey, Easy Rider Tours make the PHৰীষ্টNG Loop accessible, immersive, and truly unforgettable. We are now entering Thanh Son here in the Minh Thanh commune, which marks the true beginning of the ascent toward the Quan Bạ Heaven's Gate Pass, and the gateway into the Geopark of the Dong Van Karst Plateau. Thanh Son is a quiet hamlet located here in the Minh Thanh commune and part of the Vai Shuyan district in PHৰীষ্টNG province. It sits at the base of the Quan Bạ Heaven's Gate Pass and making it the final lowland checkpoint before the road climbs into the highlands. From here, the National Highway QL4C highway begins its dramatic ascent and winding through limestone ridges and steep valleys that signal the transition into the Dong Van Karst Plateau, which is the UNESCO-recognized Geopark. Now, this area is much more than just a geographic marker. It is a natural threshold between the settled lowlands and the rugged, culturally rich highlands of the northern parts of Vietnam. We riders often pause here to check our gears, take in the last stretches of flat terrain, and prepare for the steep climb ahead, as the change in elevation is immediate, and so is the shift in scenery, which changes from rice paddies and roadside stalls to towering cliffs and mist-covered peaks. Thanh Son may be small, but its location makes it a strategic and symbolic starting point for anyone entering the loop's most iconic stretch. Unfortunately, the weather today is very moody with low clouds, shifting light, and limited visibility. On a clear day, this stretch offers some of the most breathtaking views, but for now, we will have to rely on the road itself to tell the story, and hope that the rain holds off as we begin our climb into the hills. And here we are somewhere around the Dao Bac Sum, which is the first true mountain pass for us after leaving the city of PHৰীষ্টNG behind us. The road here is carving its way through misty slopes and tight switchbacks, with dramatic ascent that tests both our nerves and engines, and would offer fleeting views of deep valleys below, if the weather would be better. However, we are looking forward as the road climbs even higher, and is setting the stage for the legendary Quan Bạ Heaven's Gate, where the Karst Kingdom begins, and which is just ahead of us. And here we are arriving at the license checkpoint in Quiet TN. Just a quick update from today's road trip so far. I am now being stopped for the third time since leaving PHŽNG City this morning. This time, it is here at the Quiet TN police checkpoint in the Quan Bạ district, where officers are checking almost everyone for valid international driving licenses. Let me be clear, the police here are polite, professional, and simply doing their job. These checks, although annoying, are perfectly routine, especially here and along the PHŽNG loop, and they are meant to ensure safety for both locals and travelers. And it is a good reminder of how important it is to carry the correct set of documents, as we already mentioned before. A valid motorcycle license from your home country, and an international driving permit that is issued under the 1968 Vienna Convention. But wait, that is not all. Our license must also clearly state that we are permitted to operate motorcycles, and specifically the engine capacity. For example, the cc category of the bike we are riding cannot exceed the one stated in our license. Most bikes on the PHŽNG loop range from 110 cubic centimeters to 150 cubic centimeters, although some of the big boys arrive with adventure bikes which exceeding the 1000 cc category by far, so our license must be covering the class we are currently riding. If our license only permits scooters or low-powered vehicles, the license will not be valid for this route. And without all this proper documentation, we are risking fines, delays, and even impoundment, or in the worst case of an accident, our travel insurance may refuse coverage because we were not legally licensed for the vehicle we were riding. And here is something additional every rider should also know before taking on the PHŽNG loop. Most standard travel insurance policies do not cover this remote route. You might ask why. Well, it is because the loop is not considered a typical road journey. It is too remote, too mountainous, and often classified as a high-risk terrain. Even if your policy includes motorbike coverage, it usually comes with strict conditions. You must be licensed for the correct vehicle class and engine capacity, wear protective gear, and ride legally. But beyond that, many insurers exclude coverage for off-road or undeveloped routes, and the PHŽNG loop often falls into that category, due to its unpredictable conditions and lack of proper emergency infrastructure. And suppose you are involved in an accident here, especially without the right license or documentation, your claim might be simply denied. That means medical costs, evacuation, or bike damage could come entirely out of your own pocket. So, before you ride, check your policy in detail and double-check your paperwork. If needed, upgrade to a plan that specifically covers motorbike travel in remote areas. It is not just about peace of mind, it is about being prepared for the realities of the road, protecting yourself, and respecting the region we are exploring, as well as the people who try to keep it safe, as good as possible. We have not quite escaped the drizzle yet. The rain has been trailing us since we almost reached the Geopark Pass, which was ahead of the third police checkpoint, not heavy but light and persistent with thick fog, and just enough to blur the edges of the view. But now, after a steady climb, we have reached the Quản Bạ Heaven Gate Pass, and the sky is finally starting to open. This pass marks the official gateway into the Geopark of the Dong Van Karst Plateau, a region which is recognized by the UNESCO for its ancient limestone formations and geological significance. And even under a moody sky, the view is awe-inspiring and strikingly amazing. Below us lies the Quản Bạ Valley, a patchwork of mist-covered fields, winding roads, and scattered villages. On a clear day, this spot offers one of the most iconic panoramas in almost all of northern Vietnam, but even now, with clouds shifting and light breaking through, it is easy to see why this place is so revered and called the Heaven's Gate. The air here is remarkably cooler, much thinner, and the terrain ahead promises more elevation, sharper curves, and deeper immersion into the highlands, indicating that we have officially entered the wild north of the eastern parts of the PHŽNG region. We hope that the weather continues to improve, as a dry ride would make the next stretch not only safer, but also more enjoyable and scenic. But even if the drizzle returns, the journey presses on, as this is the PHŽNG loop, after all, a route that is not about perfect conditions, but about embracing the road, the adventure, and the terrain, whatever it will bring along with it.
That's where we came from, up there.
As we leave the Quản Bạ Heaven Gate Pass behind and ride down toward the township of Tam Son, the drizzle has not completely stopped, giving us the feeling of a thoroughly soaked adventure. As the wet road coils downward, very slick and narrow with mist curling between the mighty limestone peaks, while our motorbikes hum steadily like a never-ending symphony, their tires gripping the wet asphalt as the wind cuts sharply through our jackets, and making this trip an unforgettable journey. The twin mountains appear barely through the haze, rounded, symmetrical, and rising from the valley floor like sentinels. On our right-hand side, we can see the homes that dot the valley below us, as their tin roofs glistening like sparkling gemstones. Other motorbike riders also stop to take a glance at the valley while others pass by, but almost all of them, including us, are wrapped up in plastic ponchos and raincoats, with headlights that are flickering through the light but steady drizzle. We descend really slowly and carefully, because each bend demands focus as the road is still very wet and slippery, and because we want to reach the town of THÄNG Son in one piece. We are now entering the town of THÄNG Son, which is also the gateway to the famous Karst frontier and situated just beyond the Quản Bạ Heaven Gate pass. At first glance, it looks like a modest township with tin-roofed buildings, a central market, and a few winding streets. But I learned that its location makes it one of the most strategic and symbolic stops here on the famous PHŽNG loop. Geographically, THÄNG Son lies in a limestone basin which was carved by time and tectonics, as it is part of the wider Dong Van Karst Plateau Geopark, a region known for its dramatic peaks, sinkholes, and underground caves. The town itself is surrounded by jagged ridges and mist-covered hills, which is giving it a cooler and wetter climate than the lowlands. Historically, THÄNG Son has long served as a trade and administrative center for the Quản Bạ district. Here, the ethnic Hmong, the Dao, and the Tay communities converge, especially during the Sunday market, which is not just a place to buy vegetables or cloths, but also a social hub where traditional dress, handwoven textiles, and herbal medicines are exchanged. The most iconic landmark here are the Twin Mountains, which are called Nui Doi, and located just outside of the town. These two rounded limestone hills rise side by side from the valley floor and resembling a pair of symmetrical domes. I learned that local legend says that they were formed from the breasts of a fairy who loved a Hmong man, which is a myth that certainly adds even more cultural depth to this already mystic and fantastic region. Here we are now entering the hamlet of Thon Kok Ma, which is tucked inside the Dong Ha commune, and offers PHŽNG loop riders a quiet detour through terraced fields and limestone foothills just beyond the main route. Though not a tourist hub, it is part of a region undergoing rural upgrades and sits near the famed linen weaving village of Lung Tam. The Lung Kui Cave, which is a dramatic limestone cavern accessible by motorbike and a short hike. And the Nam Dam village, a Hmong settlement which is offering not only homestays but also cultural immersion into their daily and uniquely life, and so this hamlet seems to be the most ideal stopping point for those seeking off-track cultural depth. We are now overlooking Son Tai and parts of the Na Ki Valley, also known as the Yên Minh Basin, offering us a sweeping view of Vietnam's lesser-seen northern frontiers, where mist, pine forests, and karst ridges converge in quiet but grand majesty. This is the Dong Ha commune, a community which is divided into 4 hamlets, namely the Thong Nhat, the Sang Phang, the Na Sai, and the Kok Ma cooperative, which we just passed. The area here is part of the rural development programs, which include water access and road upgrades, and is aimed at improving the living standards of the locals and supporting the ecotourism as well. This is the hamlet of Trang Kim, which is a quiet village here in the Quan Ba district. It sits nestled at the gateway to the Son Tai Valley, where limestone peaks begin to rise and the road narrows into the highlands. It is definitely a remarkable transition point which is often overlooked. But for all of us riders who slow down here and catch a glimpse of the terraced fields, the traditional homes, and the first signs of the rugged beauty that defines the real PHŽNG loop which lies ahead of us, this is an additional bonus point not to be missed. Passing now into the valley of the Son Tai commune, which has a deeper story than many of us really know. The commune of Son Tai, which is nestled between steep ridges and terraced slopes, once held a strategically heavy weight. It was in the late 1930s, when the French colonial forces built a stone fortress using forced labor from surrounding villages, and which is located near here. The fortress was called the Tuong Ton Son Tai, and each of the households had to contribute 10 to 30 days of forced labor work, hauling limestones from the neighboring district of Dong Ha, and then stacking the dry stone with precision together. The fortress was not just a military outpost. No, it was a symbol of control over the only road linking PHŽNG to the northern frontier, and all the way to the district of Mio Vac. The fortress served both as a military outpost and a symbol of colonial control. It was designed to suppress the resistance and to monitor the ethnic minority movements of this highland area. Today, the ruins still stand, weathered but proud, echoing the resilience of the ethnic Hmong communities who built them. Their craftsmanship lives on in the stone walls that line village paths and fields, as the ethnic Hmong communities, whose traditional stone masonry skills were instrumental in building the fortress. The dry stone stacking techniques they used are still visible in village walls and terraces too. The terrain of Son Tai is no less dramatic: karst cliffs, pine-covered slopes, and sweeping views of the Yên Minh Basin below. It is a place where history meets landscape, and where every bend in the road carries the weight of these memories. And these facts make Son Tai for us who riding the loop more than a waypoint. It makes it a quiet chapter in Vietnam's highland story, one that was built from hard and forced labor, from stone, soil, and endless endurance. On the bright side, just below the weathered stone walls of the old French citadel, the commune vibrance of Son Tai comes alive every Sunday. What is usually a quiet highland commune is transforming today into a vibrant crossroads of culture, trade, and tradition. They told me that this area is already very busy since the early morning hours, and the winding road is filled for kilometers with parked motorbikes and cars, making it difficult for buses and everyone who is trying to squeeze their way through this narrow road. Other villagers arriving on foot, some from nearby hamlets like Dong Ha and Lung Tam, then others from deeper and more faraway corners of Quan Bạ, and even across the district lines from Yên Minh and Dong Van. The market here seems to be more than a place to buy and sell. To me it looks like it is a weekly ritual, a well-oiled social anchor. I am amazed to see Hmong women in indigo-dyed skirts and embroidered headscarves lay out bundles of handwoven hemp, dyed with natural indigo and stitched with intricate motifs. And next to it is the Dao herbalists, which displays bundles of forest medicines, dried roots, barks, and leaves which are wrapped in banana leaves or tied with red thread. Then there are the Tay farmers who bring baskets of fresh produce, like mountain ginger, sticky rice, and wild mushrooms which are still damp with morning dew. The air here is filled with the scent of grilled pork skewers and the sharp tang of fermented corn wine. Children dart between stalls, clutching sticky rice cakes or plastic toys. Elderly men gather near the edge of the market, sipping tea and trading stories in a mix of dialects. For me, it is a rare moment when the region's ethnic mosaic, of the Hmong, the Dao, the Tay, and others who converge in one place, not as tourists or performers, but as real neighbors and traders. A truly unique place, where even young Hmong, Dao, and Tay youths stroll through the Sunday market with striking confidence and mixing their traditional embroidery and handwoven fabrics with sneakers, sunglasses, and denim jackets, as if they are walking a catwalk in a newly discovered highland fashion world. And so, the old French citadel which still looms quietly above it all. A stone relic of colonial control now softened by time and overgrowth, that once was a symbol of surveillance and power, stands now as a silent witness to the resilience which is unfolding here below. With the vibrant Sunday market, the mingling of ethnic groups, and the rhythm of daily life, one can be forgiven for overlooking the fortress entirely. As time has moved on, and so has the community and its people, into a better, more connected chapter where the past no longer dominates, but quietly frames a future which is shaped by the area and the ethnic people themselves. With the Sunday market of Tsan Tai and its laughter, colors, and the scent of grilled pork that was lingering in the air, fading behind us, we now begin our climb into the heart of the Yên Minh district. The road narrows and coils upward, cutting through wild ridges and stone-walled hamlets. A clear sign that we are now entering the Na Ki commune, a quiet basin which is also carved between limestone peaks and pine-covered slopes. It is a place of subtle beauty with terraced fields glowing in the golden afternoon sun, Hmong homes which are tucked into the hillsides, and the occasional roadside stall that are selling home-made forest honey or dried herbs. Na Ki is definitely not a tourist magnet, but it holds its own quiet charm. Historically it was a part of the Dong Van district before being reassigned to the district of Yên Minh in 1962. It is home to over 4,000 residents which are spread across villages like Then Phuong and Na Pa. The people here live by the rhythm of the land. They are planting maize, tending to pigs, and gathering medicinal plants from the forest. Many of us riders often miss this area, because all they are looking for is speeding toward the famous pine forests which lies ahead of us. But those who will pause will find a commune that is steeped in resilience and deep cultural tradition. Now passing through the Ban Muong hamlet here in the commune of Na Ki, where we enter a quiet stretch of the Hajong Loop which is shaped by ethnic Hmong communities and terraced fields which are tucked away between narrow limestone ridges. Though this place is unfortunately often overlooked, it is a segment that offers a very raw glimpse into the highland life before the road climbs up again and toward Yên Minh, and therefore it should not be missed by any possible means at all. And the more we ascend, the more the landscape shifts. The limestone gives way to Rung Thong Yên Minh, which is the famous pine forest of Yên Minh. Locals call it Chuen Kam Doi Thong, a nickname born from a roadside eatery nestled among the trees, where riders stop for hot rice and a view that stretches across the valley. The air here turns crisp, the scent of pine replaces the motorbike exhausts, and the road straightens briefly, flanked by towering trunks that sway gently in the wind. It feels like entering a different world. Some call it the Hajong's version of Da Lat, minus the commercial hectic and crowds. Here, the silence is still deep, broken only by the hum of our motorbike and the rustle of needles overhead. It is a place to breathe, reflect, and realize just how far we have come, from the stone citadel of Tsan Tai to the forested heights of Yên Minh, a truly amazingly interesting ride so far. As an add-on bonus about this forest, it is noteworthy to know that this forest is man-made. However, due to its scale and density, it gives us the feel of being in a natural woodland, and despite its artificial origin, the forest has become a well-known and recognized landmark where locals sometimes gather firewood nearby, and travelers stop for photo shoots or short walks in the cool and nicely shaded breeze. Moreover, this area is usually quite peaceful with minimal traffic, but since today is Sunday, it is busier than usual. As a result, it serves as a convenient resting spot before continuing toward the town of Tt Yên Minh, Dong Van, or even as far as Meo Vac. Riding now through the village of Then Phuong, and we clearly notice that the landscape again shifted, first from limestone cliffs to pine-covered hills just a few kilometers back. And now here in Then Phuong it opens into rows of ancient sa moc trees, which are tall, fast-growing conifers that are native to East Asia, and widely planted in northern Vietnam for timber, landscaping, and ecological restoration. The trees we see here were planted generations ago by the Hmong community, who still live in stilt houses that are built nearby the roadside. The area of then PHؐNG is quiet and active as well, as the locals prepare steamed corn flour, also known as min, while children walk to school dressed up in traditional dresses, which gives it a unique cultural touch. They even have a few homestays which now welcome travelers and offering meals and textile demonstrations. Although it is a small hamlet, the village plays a significant role in community tourism, which is a form of travel where visitors engage directly with local communities, staying in their village homes, participating in cultural activities, and contributing to the local economy. It emphasizes authentic experiences, local ownership, and sustainable development, especially during the seasonal harvests. Now entering the commune of Chi Sang and the nearby Lao Va Chai, these are two communes which are known for their highland geography, ethnic diversity, and strategic location along the PHÂNG Loop. While they are much less visited than the town of Yên Minh or the town of Du Gia, they offer very unique insights into their local lives and landscape in case you are interested. And here is the second village, Lao Va Chai, which is culturally even more diverse and vibrant than the hamlet of Chi Sang. This commune is home to several ethnic minority groups, primarily the Hmong, and with 16 villages which are spread across mountainous terrain, Lao Va Chai hosts traditional practices such as textile weaving, corn farming, and seasonal festivals. Also noteworthy is that the Phu Phio community, which is one of Vietnam's smallest ethnic groups, is also residing nearby and contributing to the region's cultural richness. Local homes here are often built in traditional styles, and village life follows agricultural rhythms. During the 6th lunar month, nearby areas celebrate the Phu Phio Forest Festival, which includes rituals, music, and offerings to nature. Though not a major tourist hub, Lao Va Chai offers authentic glimpses into highland life and is part of the scenic route which is leading toward the town of Yên Minh. A few words to the present QL4C section. You might also have noticed that shortly after leaving the Ban Muong commune in Na Ki, the road started to climb steadily, and within minutes it transitioned into a ridge road, which is narrow, elevated, and flanked by steep drops on both sides. The terrain here is typical of PHÄNG's Karst Plateau, which is sharp limestone formations, sparse vegetation, and panoramic views of the valleys below. Traffic here is light on most days, but today is Sunday, and there are more motorbikes and small trucks than usual. It is also interesting to note that riders slow down at curves, but not just for safety, but actually to take in the beautiful and stunning scenery. The ridge road will continue for several kilometers and offering us continuous visibility across both sides of the mountain range. Occasionally, small roadside markers indicate village turnoffs or farming paths. However, here are no major settlements along this stretch, making it a quiet but strategic segment of the PHÄNG Loop. The road stays elevated along the ridge before gradually descending toward the outskirts of the next major town, Yên Minh, where we are now arriving. And as we are now entering the so-called quiet pulse of the loop, which is the town of Yên Minh, let us reflect that we started this morning in PHŽNG city, under a thick blanket of heavy dark and overcast sky. The air was cool, the light diffused, and the mood was cautiously optimistic. We zipped up our jackets, checked our rain covers, and rolled out with the kind of quiet focus that only unpredictable mountain weather can inspire. But as we climbed toward Heaven's Gate Pass, the weather took a turn for the worse. Thick fog rolled in, and we began to encounter steady drizzle and slick roads. Then came another police license checkpoint by surprise, which added an additional jolt of adrenaline to an already intense ride. After traversing the Quan Heaven's Gate Pass, the clouds finally began to thin out and revealing streaks of light. By the time we crossed into the Dong Van Karst Plateau, the sky had transformed to an almost perfect blue which stretched above us, illuminating the jagged limestone peaks and casting crisp shadows across the valley floor, while we passed the colorful and lively Sunday market of Than Thai. It is a stark reminder that up here the weather can change in a moment. At one point we are bracing for drizzle, and the next we are basking in full and bright sunlight. But nevertheless, we riders on the PHŽNG loop must learn and adapt quickly, and always be prepared for everything, because here, clothing layers, rain gear, and a flexible mindset are not just accessories, but they are tools of our very survival. But hey, let us be honest, this is exactly what makes the PHŽNG loop such a brain rush. One moment it is fog and drizzle, the next it is blazing sunshine over jagged peaks. We never will know what is around the next bend, and that is precisely why we ride this loop. It is not just the scenery, it is the unpredictability, the rawness, the constant shift between challenge and Oz, the emotional amazements that leaves us speechless. And that very contrast once again played out today afternoon. After weaving through the Yên Minh Pine Forests, the serpentine ridge road began to descend, and the terrain softened. The ridgelines gave way to a gentler basin, and the town of Yên Minh finally emerged like a quiet exhale. The change was almost cinematic, less dramatic, but much more grounded and stable. And here we are now, in the very town of Yên Minh, which is not flashy, but it is essential as suddenly the guesthouse signs appear again in both Vietnamese and English language. The open market has just wrapped up for the day, and mechanics' shops show their presence with their signs on the garage doors, though today, being Sunday, so most of them are closed. Still, their presence is reassuring, and it is a reminder that this town is built to support riders like us, even if the timing is not always perfect. And so, after the long ride of today, traversing the pristine and almost untouched void of the Tam Son Valley, which is often referred as the Quan Ba Valley, which leads into the Can Thai Valley and up to the Can Thai Pass, I am surprised by how much the town offers. Here we can find proper fuel stations, a lot of good restaurants, and fixes which are essentials that were rather scarce on the road we left behind us. But most importantly, there is also something more, and that is a sense of calm. The streets here are walkable, the locals are friendly but not intrusive, and the pace is just slow enough to relax and let our bodies catch up with the journey behind and ahead of us. Thanks for being with me every twist, every climb, and every descent of today's ride, through thick fog, wet drizzle, cumbersome checkpoints, and even in the silence of anticipation, you stayed with me through it all. It showed us that this loop is not just a route, it is a real test of spirit, and I am honored to having you all riding alongside with me. So come along, as in our next episode, we will push even further toward the frontier town of Mio Vac, where the mountains sharpen and the stories deepen, and I cannot wait to have you with me again when the road calls even louder, and the journey grows even bolder and wilder. So, cheers and see you again soon.